A week from Sunday. Oh, here we go again. Hi there. Welcome, everybody, to Cast Iron Wednesday here on YouTube Live, where a lot of cooking channels do this every week. Well, they don't do a live video every week, but for a lot of cooking channels, doing a cast iron video on Wednesday is indeed has become something of a really popular tradition here on YouTube. So I am one of the few, I think, who is dumb enough to actually do a live cooking video on Wednesday because, of course, what could possibly go wrong when doing a cooking on a live video? I mean, no, nothing ever goes wrong here. As such, I very much appreciate everybody who takes the time to show up here, and as always, thank you very much for being here, especially since a number of folks here are regulars on this channel. I mean, I can say hi to Terry Sinchef and Hippie Longshanks and Mike DeMars, who sometimes uses stainless steel instead of cast iron, and Shadow Walker XM. Hello, Dean Reedy, and hello, Wyoming Yeti for Jim 44, and hello to everybody here once again, because yes, as Hippie Longshanks says, tonight is steak night. Yeah, as I mentioned, this particular time, by around December 15th to 16th, is something of a personal anniversary for me, as mentioned in the description of this video, because I'm silly enough that I actually celebrate the anniversary of the first night when I cooked in cast iron. So, I mean, what can I say? I can tell that story, and I probably will, but it's not just that story. I mean, this, of course, is a YouTube live video where I really encourage everybody to have fun talking about cast iron. And besides, there are a lot of things to talk about when it comes to steak and cast iron. Besides the fact that I know steak can be one of the easiest things you can cook in a cast iron pan, but it's also pretty easy to not turn out the best steak possible. And there are 10,000 different ways on how to cook the perfect steak in cast iron. I mean, you look on YouTube or TikTok or wherever the popular videos are these days, every day someone is premiering a video on cooking a steak in cast iron. And having said that, I've got to get started here because I'm using one method that became popular here on YouTube, the reverse sear. So I'll come back to I'll come back to this little chat in just a moment while we get to take a look and see what we have here. Specifically, I'll pull this down a little bit. Here we are with a 2-pound London broil that I have been dry brining since yesterday. Yeah, I went looking specifically for a cheap cut of steak yesterday instead of a ribeye. As I mentioned, kind of like in remembrance of the first time I cooked in cast iron when I used a cheap cut. And lo and behold, at the butcher at Price Chopper, they had London broil. And even though the price tag said $7.99 a pound, there was actually on sale for $5, $4.99 a pound. So getting a 2-pound steak for $10, yeah, I think that was good enough, especially since this is nice and thick. So that means I can do a decent cook on this. And here is an excuse. That means to break out this Bluetooth um, thermometer here. This I was lucky enough to receive as a Christmas present last year. Last year? Good. I think it really feels like it's been longer than that, hasn't it? But nonetheless, it's thick enough that I can just simply stick this thing inside. They call this the meter. And the big deal about this is that I have to make sure there is a little mark about halfway up the thermometer, and I have to be sure to stick it in more than that mark because obviously there are heat shields on the outside. So let's get this app going here, and we've got the meter. Come on. Okay, no cook setup. Well, we're working on that right now. Okay, meter, tap to set up cook. How nice of them. We are obviously doing beef. And come on, we want beef. I want to cook sirloin, ribeye, flank, T-bone, tomahawk, filet picanha. Well, they've got everything here. They even have other. Let me quickly see. I'm not seeing. Okay, well, good enough. Even though there was sirloin, but right now we do want to simply get rare. So also the rules of the reverse sear are we are supposed to, whoops, the other way, cook it to 120 degrees. So there we go. And we start cook. Boy, that was hard, wasn't it? Okay, currently it looks like this is measuring 40 degrees, so this shouldn't take too long. That also means I better get this into the roasting pan here. And here is our first piece of cast iron of the evening. I've shown this one a couple of times before. A nice big Birmingham Stove and Range Century Series number 10 skillet here, which is big enough to fit this thing. Let me get this rack out of the way here. Ugh, extra stuff that came off. And we just place it in. Come on. Oh, damn it. I guess I better get these legs up. There we go. That's perfect here. Hi, and this thing makes a perfect little cooking vessel for this. So the oven is preheated to 275 degrees, which should be enough to get this thing done within an hour, especially since we've got a lot of surface area. So this we can get this into the oven right away. Now, again, this is a cheaper cut of steak, which means it is tougher. And so um, I spent the last day tenderizing this, but let me see. Let's get it down here. There we go. Okay, and we're in. And now that we've done that, let's take a look at some cast iron here as I continue talking a little bit, and then I'll get back to you because, as I mentioned, I coated that steak with a mixture of kosher salt plus your usual garlic powder, onion powder, and ground black pepper, and it's been dry brining in the fridge for about the last 24 hours or a little bit more. So I'm hoping that certainly helps to tenderize it because again, London broil, I'm still not entirely sure if that is a separate cut of meat or if that's supposed to be a way to cook meat. But either way, this should be obviously it's a tougher cut of meat, but I've been tenderizing it. And that's one reason why I'm cooking at 275 right now because again, I want to cook this nice and slow so that it doesn't stiffen up and become tough. In the end, of course, this is the reverse sear, and so we will simply, yeah, we will be frying this in the end. Let me see. Here is that app one more time. It's still estimating the cook time. Hopefully, it should be done within an hour or so. Meanwhile, the other thing I'm going to be doing here is preparing some home fries, and here is where to show off. I've shown this pan before. This is, in fact, the very first cast iron pan that I ever owned, and the first one that I cooked in on that night. My good old redneck pan. And if you see the logo on the front, you can see why I call it my redneck pan. It was my mom who named that, in fact. Let me put this on a low to medium heat. And come on. There we go. And now, finally, I can get back to saying hi to everybody. And I appreciate that. Actually, I'm sure you probably want to see the cast iron. So let's keep an eye on that. And yes, I noticed there is another pan there that I certainly am going to be using tonight as well. Okay, having said all that, okay. Jose Latias, oh dear, it looks like something happened with Jose Latias. Here it is. Spinal surgery. Well, my condolences, Jose. Yeah, like everybody else, I do hope everything goes well. Okay, and let me see, Cynthia, any tornado damage in your area? Yeah, oh yeah, it looks like everybody's having a little uh everybody's having their fun times right about now, aren't they? My condolences to everybody. What part of the steer does a London broil come from? You know, I probably should have looked that up because again, London broil on one hand apparently it is not actually a cut of meat, but it's supposed to be a way to cook meat, and yet on the other hand, at many uh, deli counters and meat markets who don't know any better, they simply do sell a cut of meat and call it London broil. And the fact that this was $5 a pound obviously means this was not in the range of, say, ribeye, for instance. So that's why I've no doubt this is probably similar to a sirloin. And that's why, again, I've been dry brining it for the past 24 hours of tenderizing it. And that's why we're slow cooking it now so that it should be good and tender by the time it's ready to actually sear and eat. Um, Very minor, and oh man, yeah, hippie lost shanks. Okay, all right, wishing well, Jose. Hello, grumpy old gringo, and all you cast iron peeps and freaks. And yeah, well, yeah. All we can do, really, Jose, on this channel, obviously, is hope everything goes well, and just like with other stressful situations, like the recent election or the pandemic or the hurricanes that have gone through, this channel, I'm hoping people can just relax and have fun for a little while because, well, really, that's what the best thing is. One of the good things about cooking, I've said this before, I consider cooking to be something of a form of meditation, meaning that it actually can help de stress you and it helps you just block out the rest of the world, at least for a little period of time. William Hurt, the London broil is a marinade recipe. My mom used to cook it up. Yeah, that's the thing. And yet here it is. I actually got this 2 pound hunk of beef that they call London broil, which obviously shows that the meat counter, price chopper, while they know enough to be able to simply cut up and package meat, obviously they are not true experts in the field. Of course, I can't say that I am either. I just got it because it was a nice, big, and inexpensive part. Betts London broil was originally made exclusively with flank steak, although other cuts of beef are labeled as such at grocery stores. Yes, exactly. So, and yes, I do hope the neutral escapism certainly helps here to everyone, Jose and everyone. Whatever cut of beef that London broil in the oven we have it's definitely cheap. But then again, that was what I cooked that first night when I fell in love with cast iron. I was bitten by the cast iron bug and I contracted cast ironitis. Basically, my story simply went that around that yeah around, it was December 16th, 15th or 16th, I forget which, 2010. And I actually wrote this on Facebook, and I still have that Facebook message on my private Facebook, so that's why I know the date, meaning it's been 12 years now. But yes, I was celebrating being in my new apartment for a month. Hey, that sure sounds familiar, because in fact I will have, oh my god, can it be, let me see, from August to September, October, November, December. Wow. In just a few years, it'll be 4 months already in this new home here. Time is flying. Anyway, I was going to celebrate a month in my new home, and so I decided to celebrate with a steak. And because I was such a cheapskate, and I think I still am, at the supermarket, I got myself an inexpensive big cut of steak, which means, of course, it was probably sirloin, or maybe flank, or maybe chuck. Either way, it was an inexpensive piece of steak. And I came home, and for the very first time, I decided I was going to use a cast iron pan, one that had been sitting in the back of the cupboard, a cabinet in the kitchen for 8 years. And it was still mostly orange from rust, although I had made an attempt to clean it up, obviously, so that I could cook with it. And that first night, when I knew nothing about cooking steak, I cooked it all wrong. I poked at it, I prodded it, I flipped it constantly. I did everything possible to turn that steak into a piece of leather. So, I mean, I have no shame in saying that I cooked a terrible steak. But the whole point being, I had a lot of fun cooking that steak. because yes, I was in the middle of a pretty stressful time in my life at that time. And again, and you know what I said a few minutes ago about cast iron cooking being a form of meditation? Well, that was the first time it happened for me. It's like it was an incredible stress relief, and I enjoyed myself cooking that steak. And that was really the most important thing. I mean, even a dried out, tough, chewy steak is still steak and it still tastes good. So I know for a fact I ate that whole thing. But because I had a lot of fun that night, and it became something special, and that was when I started doing geek stuff. Over the next few days or so, I started looking on Google for things about cast iron cooking, and more about that cast iron pan I was using. And lo and behold, bam! That's when it hit me. That's when I started becoming more interested in cast iron cooking, and the rest, as they say, is history. Maybe not world changing history, but for me, it was definitely history. And that's my story. And that's my story of how I caught cast iron itis on the night of December 16th, 2010, which comes back to what I have right now. As I mentioned, obviously I've gotten, oh, this is starting to get hot already. Good. I've gotten a lot of use out of this pan here, this good old redneck pan. Even though I've expanded my cast iron collection, I have no complaints about this being a large cast iron pan. And by the way, if you'll notice, 10 or 12 years of use here, I've gotten some good seasoning on this, and this definitely does not have what they call the rough surface of a large cast iron pan. So I certainly love this thing. Okay, let me see a couple more comments. And then, is that pan on the left smoking because it's so hot? Yes, actually, I do have it on a low to medium heat right now. I mean, this gas stove, what can I say? It's heated it up nicely so that now I can go and do a little bit more cooking, because besides that steak. Oh, by the way, the steak is now up to 51 degrees, so it is definitely rising, that's for sure. Interestingly, the oven temperature only seems to say 257 degrees, but it is climbing. So it will be done eventually. Meanwhile, let's get going here. And to go along with the steak, let us make us some home fries. I've already prepared the potatoes more or less, in that I softened them. I used a trick of nuking them in the microwave for 4 minutes, and then I stuck them in the fridge. A couple of them got a little brown, but that's no big deal, because we are just going to throw this into the pan anyway. So, especially because we're using butter, better turn on the high. Let's make it low. Make it the pan vent. And here again, I have to ask: is this cutting out the sound? Could people please tell me? Can you hear me all right? Because well, I mean, the one thing about this vent fan here, is that it makes a lot of noise, unfortunately. So if I'm having sound problems now, please tell me. Anyway, other than that, let me get this going while we can. Throw in some butter. There we go. Yeah, this sure didn't take long to heat up, did it? Okay, I never hear your fan, says Hippie Long Tank. Oh, I'm glad to hear that. That actually makes me feel good, because because I was worried about that. I guess this having this wireless microphone right on my collar certainly helps. There we go. And yeah, boy, I only had this on medium heat, and I hope I hope it's not too hot. I've turned it down very slightly, and with that, in goes our potatoes. And in fact, I'm worried. Maybe I should have used a bigger pan. Well, this isn't chicken. It's not like it's going to, give off extra liquid. Oh, I think yay, good. We've got a beep here. And how about this? It says that the steak supposedly will be ready in only 32 minutes. So we're doing pretty good here. Your remaining cook time estimate is now available. How nice. Yeah, this fancy little app here, that wireless probe thermometer was, as I mentioned, was a Christmas present, and I'm very, very grateful for that. And I've enjoyed the heck out of it, especially since by myself, I don't think I would have paid the price of getting a wireless thermometer here. Looking this up, this is the meter thermometer, and I believe the cost of this little wireless thermometer is something like $75. So I was really, really shocked to receive that as a present. I certainly want to do my best to, get some good use out of that. You can pass the time in West U.S., Jose. Debbie, you're in Texas, aren't you? New Orleans, they are horrible. Okay. Okay. Speaking of which, I mean, everybody else is having their fun little issues tonight, unfortunately. And mine are going to be coming tomorrow, too, because here in mid-state New York, we're getting our first major snowstorm of the season. They say that we are going to be getting about 6 to 10 inches of snow starting tomorrow and ending Friday night or very early Saturday morning. So, yeah, this is going to be my first major storm in my new home. So, all I can do is wait and see and make sure that everything turns out okay. I'm not especially worried. I mean, this is an older house anyway, so obviously this means this must have gone through many winters. So, but nonetheless, my being here, well, can only see how it turns out. One thing I will say is that I waited until the last minute, and just the other day, oh, by the way, we've got salt, pepper, garlic here, and my favorite, the old smoked paprika. Anyway, I waited too late, and just the other day, I ordered an electric snow shovel. Yeah, I ordered it yesterday, in fact, Tuesday. And I got the notice that it would be delivered to the store for pickup by next Tuesday. So that means, unfortunately, I'm going to be shoveling out my first major snowstorm the hard way. Oh well, I've done it before. I mean, so far the weather here in New York has not really been that much different from what we see in New England. So I'm not especially worried about that. Ooh, these spices are making these potatoes smell really good. There we go. Now it looks a lot better too, thanks to that smoked paprika. All right. And as mentioned, though, as I said, I'm supposed to be talking about steak here. We've got that steak is cooking in the oven for the reverse sear. This is one of those recipes that became famous thanks to the internet, but I've used it a couple of times and I really like it myself. Because as opposed to if you had yourself a nice cut of steak like a ribeye or New York strip steak or Del Monaco or one of those other ones, there's no reason why you couldn't simply cook the whole thing right in the pan on top, which is what I have done previously too. All you got to do is just take your time and above all else, check the temperature. I mean, that's one thing I've learned about cooking meat in cast iron, whether it's on the stove top or in the oven, whether I'm talking chicken or turkey or roast beef or brisket or steak. You really cook by temperature. I have found my thermometer to be absolutely essential. Not just this wireless thermometer, but my good old standard thermometer, which in fact I'd better break out for when we actually sear the steak. You know, good old Thermo Pro. Can't beat it. So everything will be ready for when that steak is goes into the pan. I'm hoping Honey Badger. I'm hoping temps stay up so we avoid the snow. Best of luck there. No fiber in them potatoes tonight. No, but there's plenty of fiber in the steak. There's definitely protein there. And Papa Dan been caught in a couple of tornadoes before. Ouch. Yeah, well, compared to that, I think I'm glad I'm in New York, or as they like to say in that meme, Now I know what. No, this is why I live where the air hurts my face. And we'll just keep going at it. Don't want to stir these potatoes too much. It's been pointed out by you folks that I tend to stir my and touch and stir and poke around my food too much in the pan. So really got to get over that habit and let it, you know, develop a good crust here. Anyway, how? Okay, let me throw out a question as well. I mean, how do you like your steak? I mean, what do you do? Say you've got yourself a nice, good quality steak, like maybe a ribeye or something. Like, after all, Christmas is coming. It's a special occasion for a lot of people, so you want to cook something special. Especially if you're older and the kids have already left at home, and it's just you and your life companion with you. You've got yourself a steak. Most people here are saying medium, medium well, medium, and I don't blame you for that. Need some chives on the potatoes. You know what? I don't have chives, and I didn't even think of that until this very moment. So I guess I'll have to live with that. Yeah, grilled on lump charcoal. Yeah, trying to be different here. But yeah, medium well. Well, yeah, I know. I know one person as well who still prefers her steak well done. And well, of course, I'm not here to force my opinion on anyone. I when During most of my life when I did not know how to cook, I was the same way. I liked my steak well done until I learned my lesson and I actually tried medium rare steak. So yes, I learned just how wonderful a medium rare steak is. Medium rare with a heavy char, says Henry Morris, which is what I hope to do. Does anybody here have a special pan that they use, especially when they want to sear a steak? Now, of course, if you've got a big cast iron collection, you probably have one or two pans just for doing something, like maybe making cornbread, for instance. But when it comes to searing steak, I mean, um, one pan that I tend to reach for, and which I have in fact right now, especially for searing a steak, is this Finex cast iron pan, this number 12 Finex cast iron skillet, which I've had since 2014. This is incredibly heavy. This is one of the heaviest pans I own in my collection. It is thick, it is heavy, much heavier than this Lodge skillet here, which is also pretty heavy in itself. Because when it comes to searing a steak, yeah, I like using thick, heavy cast iron. I do feel it holds heat better, and I think it does give it a a better sear that way. So, if given a choice, I would go for the Finex. On the other hand, people are arguing about what's the difference between these fancy cast iron pans and the less expensive pans like Lodge. And to be honest, very, very little difference. The difference between the Finex and the Lodge, I would say the difference is between excellent cooking here in the Lodge and remarkable cooking in the Finex. So nobody is going to complain about anything that you cook in a Lodge pan. I love both my Lodge pans, and as you know, I use them all the time. So as I said, just if I'm going to get something special like a steak, I'm whipping out the Finex for that. As Honey Badger says, I use a Black Rock number 10 when I'm making steak. My number 7 small logo is my cook-all. It stays on my stove. Grandma's number 8 Wagner, my Lodge, or my Big Red Mountain. Oh, yeah, it took my grandma 68 years to figure out how good a medium rare steak was. Oh, boy, do I know that all too well, Terry Sinchep. Clico, how is the Finex handle doing? I keep mine covered due to hot brass tip. Keeps it clean too. Well, let me show you. I think we can agree this handle is a little bit discolored, but it's not so bad. Largely because when I clean this every so often, I actually do put some barkeeper's friend on the handle specifically and wash it that way, and that I think helps to keep it a shine. Although you can see between the grooves here, it is definitely developing some discoloring. There's no denying that. I'm not complaining about it. I'm not too worried about keeping this thing absolutely pristine and looking like it's brand new. It's a cast iron pan. It develops seasoning. Ugh. So I'm not worried about that. I know people consider the spring handle in the Finex to be one of its disadvantages, and I can understand why. You know, with the Finex, supposedly, the spring handle was developed so that it would not conduct heat, and supposedly so that you could grip it with your bare hand. But as you know, it doesn't really work that way because it's not big enough. This part of the handle right here can get extremely hot. The brass tip here becomes extremely hot. So, like it or not, you still have to use an oven mitt or a pot holder to hold this. So yeah, I mean, given the given the design and the fact that the Finex pan costs so much, yeah, I know there are some people who criticize them and they say for that price it should be perfect. All right, let's turn these over. Oh, good. Look at this. We are indeed starting to get a little somewhere here. And I've got to be careful that these potatoes don't burn, in fact. So we're not doing too badly here. Whoops. One of them got away. Yeah, I think it's gone. Okay. We turn these over. And then we'll hold tight. So yeah, so so it's questionable as to whether the Finex would be worth it at that incredible price. And yet, of course, Finex has its devotees because, as I mentioned, it's thick, it's heavy, and it does the job. As I said, I mean, I would grab the Finex if I wanted to do a steak like I'm going to do tonight, or is it Jose? Yeah, Jose Latias. You've got your own channel, I believe, now for cast iron. I can't believe I forget. Um, and I think it's you, in fact, who has a fair-sized collection now of Finex. I am amazed at all of the really fancy, modern, brand new cast iron you've got on your channel, in fact. So I can only guess that they must be sending you samples to review. And that's a pretty good deal if you ask me. There we go. Yeah, I got to watch myself on this because, as I said, I don't want to burn these things. It looks like they're developing a nice crust, but again, I don't want them burned. Meanwhile, the steak, wow, steak is now down to 11 minutes. So 11 minutes, even though it says 88 degrees, that's interesting. I'm wondering how it's actually, well, 89 degrees now. I'm wondering how it's calculated that. Maybe it's actually going to say take it out before 120 degrees so that the temperature will rise. I might disagree with that because the whole point here is I'm going to take it out at 120 degrees, let it rest, and then we'll sear it. So, but nonetheless, I saw how you got them displayed. I don't have one too rich for my blood. Oh, always cook my steaks in real butter. So good. Oh, well, yeah, I have no arguments about that. That's for sure. You really can't do much better that way. Turn the fire down. Okay, I think I'll do that. I'll turn the heat down just a little bit here. Gas stove. I'm still getting used to it. Oh yeah, let me say one other thing too. I got an email this morning from the gas company with my gas bill for this month. And I am not joking when it said my gas bill was $2,900. Yeah, when I saw that, believe me, my heart skipped a beat. And I called up their customer service and read them the riot act. Because obviously it means, unfortunately, the gas meter must have malfunctioned or gave some kind of a bad reading or something. So I told them they're going to have to get somebody down here to check this meter here. There's absolutely no way I use $2,000, almost $3,000 worth of gas in my home, because that would either mean it's a bad meter or a major gas leak. And the fact that I'm using an open flame here right now means there is definitely no major gas leak. So yeah, they will be checking that out. Full set of butter pat skillets. Wow, that actually, there's a pretty penny as well, John asked. But I'd say yes. I mean, I've no doubt you're probably enjoying them. Do you have gas heating? Well, I have radiators. I definitely have a gas furnace, yes. And there are radiators, but there is not central heating. There are no air ducts in this home. It all uses radiators. And what's more, I think the furnace is actually working quite well here. And the rate, because even now, when we're getting down to this morning, the temperature, for instance, was below 20 degrees. And yet, when I got up this morning, I've got a time thermostat. The thermostat showed 69 degrees, and it's been like that every morning. I have the temperature set for 68, but it raises it to 69 because these are old radiators. And the radiators get warm enough that the cats like to sit on them. The radiators are not hot enough to burn. So because of that, I think the furnace and the heating is doing a pretty good job here. I do keep my thermostat in the 60s. It starts out at 68 degrees, and then I have a time for the temperature to drop during the day, so that by the evening time it's actually set at 66. Because after all, I'm going to bed with a blanket and two cats. So I bet that email woke you up and got your blood pumping. Well, that's putting it mildly. Yes. I heard gas went up for homes, but wow, I definitely do. Yeah, exactly. So yes. Oh yeah, no, they are going to be checking it out because there is no freaking way I could have used that much gas. Absolutely none. So, I mean, I could keep my gas stove running on high 24/7 nonstop for a month, and I don't see any way that it could have done that. Still, these are looking pretty nice. Let me bring this down here, in fact, and let's see if we can get a little bit closer. There we go. Not bad. Roadside assistance guy. They know the difference between residential and commercial account. They were fully aware of their mistake. More likely, I'm thinking probably nobody noticed it. I mean, after all, I'm just one customer in the state of New York, which has several million people, and then there's the rest of the state outside of New York City. So probably just no one noticed. So until I brought it to their attention. I mean, they certainly can't. I would hope actually they would have some kind of procedure to scan and give a notice when bills seem unusual. But well, that didn't seem to be the case for me. Nonetheless, I'm not too worried because, like I said, there's absolutely no way I'm gonna pay $3,000 on a monthly bill here. All right. Other than that, okay. Well, now it says 7 minutes and it's 100 degrees. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this thing is actually gonna say take it out of the heat before it reaches 120. Based on that, well, actually, let me ask you some advice. Do you think I should? I mean, I know there is carryover cooking, and granted, as I said, I'm not done cooking it at 120 degrees anyway. I am going to be searing it to put a nice crust on it. So maybe 6 minutes, in fact, and maybe whether I should follow their directions or not. But anyway, yeah, steak in cast iron. Oh boy. Like I said, steak and cast iron videos are so popular here on the internet, whether it's YouTube or TikTok or Facebook or Instagram or whatever you want. If you, again, every single day someone is doing a video. Hey, let's cook a steak in cast iron. And more power to them, of course. I mean, cooking steak is fun, steak is delicious, and of course, it's popular too. Everybody loves steak videos. I mean, if you want to get a lot of hits on YouTube, at least I hope, do a steak video. Heck, there are some channels that do almost nothing but steak. You know, we're talking like, Ballistic Barbecue, the guy who's got 15 different kinds of backyard grills. Or Guga Foods. I cooked a recipe from Guga Food. You remember a couple months or two ago? I just got a beep here. Oh, yeah. 5 minutes remaining, and it just gave me a warning about that. And now it's up to 104 degrees. Anyway, yeah, Guga is one of those channels I watch as a live action cartoon. You know, some of these professional YouTube cooking channels with 17 million subscribers, they cook this outstanding food that looks like I could never beat them with that. Not to mention they have incredible gear too. But really, it's a live action cartoon I watch because it looks delicious. And yeah, Guga Foods, for instance, you know, what does he cook on his channel? He cooks steak and more steak and burgers and more steak. Hey, let's do a lobster. And how about some steak and maybe some more steak and some burgers? And you get the idea. And again, he knows his niche. I mean, obviously, it's a full-time job for him because he's got all those subscribers. He gets all that great revenue, so he knows what his audience is. I love steak. I don't think I could eat steak every day. I do try to put some variety in my cooking, and which is why, for instance, next week is for Cast Iron Wednesday, we are going towards Christmas, so I'm gonna have to do something of a Christmas themed video next week. Obviously, I remember, was it last year? I think I did a tortillere, a pork pie, Christmassy pork pie that comes from Canada and France. We could redo that, or I could find something else. Well, I got a week to figure that out. Right now, though, we're doing steak. And these home fries are looking pretty darn good. Taking my dear sweet time on these, and as a result, well, I'd say we've got some good results here. So he's on a cruise with his mom. Yesterday he said he was in a free class learning how to make margaritas. Oh, I see. So he must be being a bartender. So yeah, that's the way I used to smoke my barbecue. Oh, have a good evening, Jose, and best of luck and good luck to everybody for that. Yeah, seriously. Now that you've got a yard, you'll get hooked cooking outdoors too. Well, there is that possibility. Although, to be absolutely honest, the way my life is, I'm not sure if I'm going to have time to do it. I've got this full-time job here that really takes up a lot of my time. And really, this cooking for a long time for me has been more stress relief and a hobby than anything else. So, I mean, add that to the extra effort and resources to keep to manage a grill. Well, I'm not sure if I'm at that point yet. I've got friends who say you should really consider making your channel full time. I'm not sure if I'm at that point yet. That's a topic for another discussion some other time. So, regardless. Okay, those potatoes, yeah, too bad there are no onions. You're right, I forgot to put onions in that. My bad. Well, we've got some nice home fries anyway to go with this steak. And speaking of steak, we are now at 3 minutes, and the temperature has now jumped to 110 degrees. Wow, it's almost this app was written by people who knew about cooking food. Who would think? Actually, I'm probably at the point where I can turn this vent off at least until it's time to sear the steak. Okay, having a good one. But yeah, here's hoping as well that you folks have a chance to cook some steak in cast iron because, yes, really, I mean, so far, I would say cast iron is probably still the best way to cook a steak. I know some people say putting it on the grill is the best way because you do get some wonderful charring with that. There's no denying that. But I have really enjoyed the steaks I have made in cast iron to the point that the last time I was at a steakhouse must have been at least 10 years ago. And that was on a oh yeah, I remember that was on a road trip for work, and that one actually happened to be where I had probably the worst steak I've ever had at a steak place. This was a Lone Star Steakhouse in Iowa, in fact. So yeah, they claimed it was a ribeye. It was tough enough that it was probably a sirloin, or they did a terrible job cooking it. It was pretty small. It was thin. The knife they gave me to cut it with was terrible. It ended up shredding the steak. So yeah, that was uh, easily the worst steak I'd ever had. I have had some really good steaks, but now, especially with the cost of everything going up, I mean, since it's so easy to cook a steak in cast iron, why go out? Like I said, that's this big London broil or whatever this cut of meat is cost me $10. What can you get at $10 at a steakhouse these days? A glass of water, maybe? So Sherlock Holmes, I'm baking a real mincemeat pie for Christmas dinner. Oh, yeah, it's been several years, but I made mincemeat once, and I think it turned out pretty good. I mean, it took a long time to make, but yeah, real mincemeat, essentially sweetened meat. And oh, I remember I made that mincemeat, and then I put it, oops, look at that. It says remove from heat, and it's 114 degrees. Okay, I think I'll do that. I think I will do what I'm told, like a good sheeple. Okay, that means I better move this out of the way. Actually, I better put it over here. There we go. Time to turn this over here. Get a good view here. Come on. Oh, damn it. Always one thing after another here. Sorry, I'm just trying to be able to turn this camera around. There we go. Now, uh, need this. Okay, and here it comes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Here is a slow cooked steak, what they call London broil. What's probably sirloin, that would be my best guess. Let me see if I can raise the camera a little bit because, again, we're not done yet. Once this thing gets to 120 degrees, we've got the fun will begin. All right, enjoy the potatoes. Have a good evening, Wyoming Yeti, and best of luck. I do hope I hope everything turns out okay for everybody. All right, these fries are probably good enough. In fact, that I can take them off the heat. So let me put them over here on this plate. Once again, I need this. Need this. Yeah, I'd say these fries have turned out nicely. So we're gonna have a nice side dish for these potato for the steak, definitely. Actually, by my doing this, this means I'm gonna have to get another plate for the steak. Okay, I better dig one out right now while I'm thinking of it. Get this to one side and quickly throw out another plate. Well, it's got to be a larger plate anyway. Here we are. Okay. So while we're doing that, yeah, it says resting and it says 7 minutes. And furthermore, the temperature is now up to 118 degrees. So we are doing pretty good here. All right. That means one moment. Let me turn this back over because time to do one other thing. Oops, this heat is still on. My bad. Let us pot holder get this off the heat. Put the Finex on the heat and start heating this thing up nice and hot. There we go. Careful, don't want to set this thing on fire. And so, I hope I didn't wait too long, in fact. Nonetheless, okay, family says dinner. Oh yeah, I had popcorn, not feeling well. My condolences, Debbie. Again, everybody seems to be like that. Well, of course, we are getting into winter, and unfortunately, it's flu season, and the flu is really taking off too. I'm sorry to say. Oh, get your flu shots, everybody. But yeah, and then of course there's COVID. Yeah, we're not done yet, folks. But that's all I'm going to say about that. Where did you get your wire rack to fit your skillet? I think I got that at either a restaurant supply store or a Chinese market. Might have been a Chinese market. They sell all kinds of interesting kitchen stuff at those Chinese markets, and they usually sell them pretty cheap. So things like that I would never buy at Wally World because they're usually a lot more expensive there and probably not as good quality either. Restaurant stores, in some cases at a restaurant store, you can get a good bargain. In other cases, it can be a lot more expensive than Wally World. So, you have to pick and choose. It's really about the best you can say. All right. And where did I just put my mouse? Oh, there it is. Okay. Making sure I'm not missing anything here. Oven still on? Good point. Let me turn off the oven right now. Thank you for the reminder. There we go. The oven is off now. Okay. Meanwhile, I've got this pan heating up here. All right. But yeah, this is the reverse sear, and frankly, if you haven't tried the reverse sear, I would certainly recommend it. The times I have used it, I have really enjoyed the results. The 1 year, I've got videos on these. 1 year, I used the reverse sear to make a bloody rare Halloween roast beef. The kind so that you can serve the meat so that it's still dripping with blood or myoglobin or whatever you actually call it, but it's good enough as blood. And like $3,000 actually, Corey Clark. So yeah, that's why your gas bill is so high. I would need to probably keep this stove running at the max for a month and or more, and it probably still wouldn't make $3,000. At least I hope not. The other thing about the reverse sear, and actually, here's something I think I'll mention, especially since Christmas is coming: prime rib, standing rib roast, or prime rib. I've commented about this, and I did a video, in fact, because several years ago, I keep saying several years ago. Has it really been that long? My mom was over for Mother's Day, and I cooked her a prime rib roast, and it turned out great. And I used the reverse sear. Prime rib, as you know, has got this thing where you cook it at 500 degrees for something like 18 minutes per pound, and then you turn off the heat and leave the oven closed for 2 hours, and then you get yourself a perfect prime rib. That's how that goes. And a lot of people, it will turn out that way, but not everybody, because every stove is different. What if you've got a stove where somebody actually messed it up? Maybe they burned something really bad in the oven and got a lot of grit and messed up the thermostat and everything. If you were to make a prime rib in a stove like that, it's really doubtful that it would turn out to be the right temperature. Okay, meanwhile, hi Adam Mackey. What do you use Barkeeper's Friend for? Barkeeper's Friend, or you can call this stuff Cast Iron Cook's Friend. Barkeeper's Friend is wonderful for cleaning cast iron. Basically, if you've got a little bit of rust on your pan, and everybody gets a little bit of rust once in a while, and when that happens, then yeah, Barkeeper's Friend is really, really great for helping to really clean up and remove that rust. Likewise, if you are like me and like some folks, and I regularly restore rusty cast iron that I find at flea markets and the like, again, Barkeeper's Friend is a great rust remover for that. Your neighborhood looked nice in your short. Well, thank you very much. Probably have a meter. The new ones are digital. You're probably right. So okay. It's a cleanser that won't scratch. That's also true. Cast iron fan, you know what my creation was 2 summers ago? I got a number 8 Dutch oven and found an old gas stove. Took the rack and sat it in there and made a cooker. Oh, that sounds good. My skillets fit like a charm, and congratulations on that. So they changed my electric meter this past week. Huh. Yeah, well, you can always ask them to check or even read it yourself. I mean, you could do that. Okay, this thing here is, let's see. Well, then, since I've become such a temperature nut, let's get out this temp gun and see what we got. Hey, there we go. 468. We're at 500 in the very center here. I think we are getting close. Maybe just another few seconds or so, and we should be ready to sear ourselves a steak. Which means I'm gonna have to put that lens back, or that vent back on. And in fact, let me. My favorite oil for doing steaks. No, there's some peanut oil, but usually when I do a steak, this is my personal preference. I use corn oil. Corn oil has a good high smoke point, and it doesn't impart any taste that I know of to the steak. So I enjoy using corn oil when doing my steaks. That's just me, though. Okay. They throwing out that stove, and the round thing was perfect. That's a handy gadget. Oh yeah, you mean this infrared thermometer here? Yeah, what can I say? Welcome to the 21st century. I am a cheapskate. This thing cost me less than 20 bucks, and I ordered it a few years ago. It's probably even cheaper. You can get these things easy these days. So, and yeah, it is extremely useful too. Having said that, let me turn the vent fan back on one more time, because there's definitely going to be smoke now. In fact, even though it's cold out, I think I better crack the window a little bit, because I really don't want that smoke detector to go off. All right, definitely got a notice from the meter, which means it's time. Let me pull out that probe. Don't want to sear this probe anymore, because as they say in Star Wars, here's where the fun begins. You were talking about this rack. I'm pretty sure I got it at either a restaurant store or at a Chinese market. But yeah, it is really useful, isn't it? Well, this thing is now smoking, so I'd say we're definitely at the right point. Where are my tongs? Here they are. All right. No time like the present. Let's put in some corn oil, which I like using on my steaks. Okay. There we go. Just a few more seconds to heat up the oil, and then the fun really begins. Here's hoping there isn't too much smoke. And I'm starting to see some shimmering. Oh, this is still cool enough, by the way, even though I can definitely feel it getting warm. All right, here we go. Big enough? There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. Let me turn this heat up a little bit, in fact. All right. Not bad for a 2-pound steak here. I should definitely keep this thing out and make sure we don't get too crazy, because we only have to sear this for a short period of time. I mean, this is a fully cooked steak. I don't have to keep this in very, very long. Looks like the range is a little low on front. Yeah, I know. I adjusted it not too long ago, and I'm going to have to adjust it again, I guess. I'm a little surprised myself. Nonetheless, this should not take very long. I'm really hoping I got this thing hot enough. I mean, it did say 500 degrees. Okay, let's do this right. And, ooh, Hey, that looks pretty nice. Well, I don't think that's anything to complain about. Oh, not bad. So I like these little parts. They're from the wire rack. The lines there. It's almost like reverse grill marks. Still, I'm not complaining about how this thing is looking though. Not one bit. Get ready for the chaos detector. Interestingly enough, I am not seeing a lot of smoke. I'm not sure if it's because of the vent or what, but usually I know you would expect there to be a huge plume of smoke. Usually when I do steaks, that's exactly what happens. But this is turning out to be maybe one of the easiest steaks I've ever cooked. Hmm. Leader of the no-no group. Oh, he tried, couldn't believe it. He did a pan. Oh, I see. And with that, I'd say we're probably almost done already here. I'm not sure if I should give it one more flip or if we are maybe just about done here. I'm amused by these lines, though, from the wire rack. Potatoes look good. Oh, Clico. Well, I'm glad to hear that. That's one of the biggest compliments I could receive from anybody, and thank you so much for that. Actually, one moment. I've got to do one other thing here. Let me turn off this vent fan for a moment. I want to get a money shot of this cooking in the pan here. So let's do this as quickly as we can. There we go. Thank you very much, folks. And with that, I think I'll flip it one last time just to be sure, but that's about it. Oh, this looks even better. Now we're starting to get somewhere. Listen to that and look at that. On the other hand, again, this is already a fully done steak, so I really don't think I should keep it in much more than a few more seconds. And that sure didn't take long, did it? And that, folks, is the reverse sear. So right now, I've got to quickly move some of these things around, and we will be done. Let me get this out of the way here. All right, there we go. Let's turn the view back over to here. Don't worry, I'm going to show you more of the cast iron. Turn off the heat right now. Move this off the heat. Ugh. Oh man. Ugh. There you go. And get this onto the plate. All right, there we go. Let's see what the other side looks like again. Ooh, nice. Yeah. Here we go. Check this out. A 2-pound London broil, aka I'm thinking it's a sirloin steak. I am not a steak expert. I could not tell you just from the look of this cut. Although the fact that it has you see these little lines or parts in the meat, I'm not sure what that might indicate. Maybe it might help to identify the cut, perhaps. I left the fat on for the record. But the other nice thing about the reverse sear is it's already sat and rested. So technically, we could probably even cut this thing open right now. I'm looking forward to that. However, I'm going to have to get this off of here and get it back onto the stove where it's safe because I don't want to accidentally bump it. Finex. As I mentioned, Finex is my go-to for doing a steak, and now you can see why. But there we go. We're off to a pretty good start here. We got ourselves steak and home fries. I think I'll let this rest for at least a couple more minutes before cutting into it. By the way, if folks want to tell their steak stories, please feel free to do so because I know there's got to be some folks have got to have had some steak adventures. I mean, it's simply inevitable here, whether it's simply you cooked a great steak or you knew somebody who had something happen when cooking a steak. I mean, I've no doubt about that. Yeah, the as I mentioned before, the Finex, it's really debatable. I think if you want to actually put in the expense of buying a Finex. On one hand, it's a wonderful, wonderful pan. I'm glad I have it, and I'm going to use it for the rest of my life. As mentioned, it has some disadvantages, which is why people may question as to whether it's worth the extremely high price. On the other hand, like any piece of cast iron, if you've got a Finex, it's almost certainly going to last you the rest of your life. So I am not going to go out of my way and say, yes, you should get a Finex. I will say that if you do get a Finex, it's almost certainly you will not regret it. So that's my comment on Finex. And I've had this Finex now for, oh, good grief, 8 years. I got it for Christmas, in fact, of 2014. Hello, Root Boy Cooks. Hey, I'm glad to see you here. Reverse sear is the way to go. Did you sous vide this? No, actually, I did not. I slow cooked it in the oven. I put it on a wire rack. Actually, let me back up. I first coated this with a heavy coating of kosher salt plus ground black pepper, onion powder, and garlic powder. And I dry brined it in the fridge for 24 hours. I left it uncovered in the fridge on that wire rack so that it would marinate for 24 hours. Then I put it in the oven and slow cooked it on a wire rack in a cast iron pan, of course, this big cast iron pan, for another hour. I slow cooked it at 275 so that it would reach the right temperature. And then I seared it. So that even though this is almost certainly like a sirloin, I'm hoping it's good and tender. But I think we're about to find out in just a few seconds. So, but yeah, nice to see you here, Root Boy. And thank you, by the way. You remember you sent me some rub once. So thank you very, very much. K Clock. I'm scared of cooking steak since it's expensive. Did not learn it from my mom. We can't afford it in a family of six. Okay. I hope this helps. I would say then, if you want to try cooking steak, well, get something cheap, like sirloin, for instance. The point being with sirloin or chuck steak is you have to marinate it. It's a tougher piece of meat. If you just simply pan fry it, it will probably become chewy. It'll be delicious, but it'll still be chewy. The point of marinating it is just that. It will help to tenderize it so that it will be less chewy. Having said that, I'd say we're probably about ready to try cutting into this thing. So that means I better get myself out a knife. And, well, what else should I use? But my birthday present, my good old chef knife here. And let me see. Let me put the camera down a little bit. Try to get as good a close shot as possible, so that if I embarrass myself and this thing turns out to be well done, well then you'll all get to see it. Nonetheless, I also try to center this. I'm sorry about this. I'm trying to center this camera as best as I can. There we go. That's what we wanted here. This is what we get for doing live with no budget. And having said that, oh yeah, a fork. That's the last thing. And well, here we go. And the result is, I think I might have overdone it very, very slightly, because they say with the reverse sear you can get supposedly medium rare from top to bottom. But hey, I'm not complaining about this. Is anybody else complaining about it? I do believe we still have ourselves a nice medium rare steak here, especially considering this thing is 2 inches thick. So maybe I might have overdone it very, very slightly, but not much. Oh yeah, so there we go. Yeah, potatoes are awesome. Yes, they are. I love me some potatoes. Well, now the last thing is, now that I've talked and talked and talked, let's taste a piece. Careful. Come on, there we go. Let's taste a piece and see what it's like. Mm, 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 oh, this is good. Mm, mm. It's definitely sirloin. I have to say, it is more chewy than a ribeye. Mm, 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 mm. Oh man, but every chew is worth it. The flavor in this thing is like, oh man. Yeah, chewy or not, I'm not complaining how this turned out. So if you want to try practicing with your first steak, as I said, you can do something like a sirloin, for instance, with the understanding that it's probably going to be chewy, but not in a bad way. This is chewy, but it is delicious. It is definitely there is no lack of flavor in this thing. So next time, just walk it through a warm room for me. I guess you like it so raw that you can still hear the mooing, huh? Okay. Cube it up for beef tips and rice another day. Yeah, there's definitely got to be leftovers on this too. No question about that. No steak sauce. Oh, I forgot to make a pan sauce with these juices. My bad. Cutting it thin like a London broil will help combat the chewiness, which means you're talking about a nice thin cut here. There we go. Here's a thin cut for you. Mm, mm. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. And you're right. That really. Oh man, that hits the spot, boy. Well, what can I say? I mean, as I said, this is something of a special occasion for me. As I mentioned before, this is my cast iron anniversary. The anniversary of the first time I cooked in cast iron. I cooked a steak and I cooked it terrible. It was, I mean, but I loved it anyway. It was so much fun to cook. And that's one reason why I had to get a cheaper cut of steak and try to rectify my the way I cooked it by cooking this the best way I could. And I think it did. Oh man, is this ever good? But yes, you're right. At least half of this, probably, I'm just going to put in the fridge, and then I can cut it all up and make like burnt ends or something with it. So I'm definitely looking forward to this. Mm. Your YouTube of cooking a steak had flames. Oh yeah, that one. Yes. Hello, vocal guy. Yeah, that even today, that is still like my number two, or is it? No, now it's number three most watched video on YouTube, and it was really the first video I ever made for YouTube too. So, yes, indeed. Let me say a couple of things because I still remember that day. You see, when I first started cooking in cast iron, and I knew nothing. It all of this cooking has been a learning experience for me. I am completely self-taught. I've been cooking for 12 years. Everything I've done, I've learned myself from like watching videos or the like, maybe some advice from chefs and so on. But I've never went to culinary school. I did not have a family to teach me to cook as I grew up. I learned it all myself. And as I started learning how to cook in cast iron, first thing I did was I made the same mistake that a lot of people make when they first try cooking in cast iron. I had my heat far, far too high. I was cooking regularly with the blazing hot pan, so hot that the seasoning turned white. I was regularly burning off my seasoning. And in fact, quite often, I would have flame ups. I would have little mini, I guess you could call them grease fires in my pan, like from bacon grease the like. And when I would put ground pepper in the pan, it would immediately sear and turn into these little red hot dots on the pan. And I was doing that far too often to the point where I said, you know, I'm doing something wrong here. And it just got into my mind that as I was watching these YouTube videos for cooking and cast iron and the like, I'm thinking, I should do a video that really shows you the wrong way to cook a steak. Yes, that's exactly what I wanted to do. I intentionally wanted to do a video of setting that pan on fire, especially to discourage people from doing that. And so I set it up that way. Also, when I filmed that video that day, I was not by myself. There were people in the room with me, in fact, and then there was a fire extinguisher ready in case the worst happened. So things were pretty much under control in that I knew what to expect. I mean, yeah, granted, I would not want to do that again. No, I was still stupid for doing it, but I did it, and everything there was intentional. When I set that poof on fire, that was intentional. I had a big lid right there, especially to cover it, and it worked. I will not recommend that to anybody. No, don't do what I did, but it worked. I didn't burn down my kitchen, and it was a lesson learned. And to this day, I am still getting emails and comments on that video. Everybody telling me what a dumbass I am for doing that. So, but hey, it got me some views. I'll say that much. Okay, try barbecue first, low and slow. Oh, newbies should try barbecue first, low and slow. Yes, exactly. Keep your temperature down. That's really one of those big lessons that I learned. Thank goodness I did not learn it in the worst possible way. So far, and hopefully it'll never happen in my kitchen. So far, I have not had to use the fire extinguisher, nor do I ever want to. I do have my fire extinguisher, two fire extinguishers ready, and hopefully I'll never need them. But of course, that's what Alton Brown says. No unitaskers in the kitchen except for the fire extinguisher. So that is my story of my video where I intentionally set my stove on fire for YouTube. All right, let me check a couple more comments here. And thank you, everybody, once again for being here. I mean, what else can I say? So, with all that meat, you can make some tacos or fajitas. Yeah, that's all. That's all a good plan to me. I certainly not. And thank you. Happy anniversary. Yes, thank you very much. So, thank you, everybody. Try cutting it the other way against the grain. I thought I was cutting against the grain. Okay, let me turn this over. No, yeah. Let me turn it on this side here, and we'll try cutting it this way. See how it works here. So I honestly thought I was cutting against the grain, but nonetheless, I've got a nice thin piece, like you said, and this looks pretty good. In it goes. Mm, mm, oh, oh yeah. Oh, it's steak. What can I say? Mm, mm. This is definitely not tasteless. As I said, even though it's more chewy than a ribeye, I am not regretting it because it is bursting with flavor, and every chew is simply worth it. Oh man, this is good. So that's the advantage of doing a sirloin steak, I guess. Okay, I have a secret sage plant in my secret herb garden in my local park. Guerrilla gardening. Hmm. You're blessed. I have to sift through everything to make sure it's onion free. Oh, my condolences after that. So, all right. I like the sound of guerrilla gardening. Okay. But anyway, well, what can I say, folks? I'd say we've done what we set out to do, in that I've got a steak here and I got some home fries. Oh, yeah. Home fries came out good too. They're nice and chewy. Not chewy. What's the word? They're not hard. Definitely well done. So this is definitely something that's worth it here. And this is what we've got. And well, once again, we've celebrated my cast iron anniversary. And thank you for letting me share this with all of you folks, because I say this every week and I mean this every week. Having you folks here to talk with, not to, but with, as I fumble around in my kitchen, all makes this worthwhile. I mean, cooking is a lot of fun. These live videos are a lot of fun because you folks are here to comment, and that's what I like. I like your comments. I like your criticisms. I like the MST3K comments, because I am nowhere. I am far from perfect. I'm going to be an amateur my whole life, and I very much appreciate any advice and tips and honest criticism. So thank you everybody for that. Thank you as well for being here as well. Cheaper cuts of beef are the tastiest. Yes, they are. They are really good. And one last thing, I guess I'll say one other story. When I was young, we're talking like less than 5 years old and all the way to up until my teenage years, every so often my grandmother would cook us a steak once in a while because, steak was something special, but she'd do it once in a while. And I found out later my grandmother had Wagner cast iron pans. But she would cook a steak and she would do her best. And me being a kid and not knowing any better, I would absolutely drown that steak in Worcestershire sauce. You drown it so you really could not taste anything but the Worcestershire sauce. And I loved it. And I did it every single time. And of course, my grandmother would chide me and say, you should try tasting that steak without the sauce. And I never did. And it wasn't really until years later that I finally took her lessons to heart. And I've been really kind of whenever I cook a steak, I always think of her with that. And that's why, even though I did coat this steak, you notice I did not put any kind of sauce on it, no Worcestershire or anything like that. A couple of times I've had steaks with sauce because it's good, but yeah, I've learned to appreciate the taste of steak, including medium rare steak, because when it's well done, oh man, it's heaven in your mouth. And I don't think there is much else I can say at this point other than just to, well, once again, though, thank everybody for showing up. As always, I hope you've enjoyed yourselves. I hope I've done my best to entertain you because you saw, I was very pleased. Yay! Let's bring out the cast once again. Yay! And give them another round of applause. Here is my redneck pan, the good old Lodge 10-inch cast iron skillet. That was my very first piece of cast iron. In fact, this year was its 20th anniversary in my kitchen. I've had this in my possession for 20 years. Yay, yay, applause for the Lodge cast iron. And here, no, it's not hot. I still need to use this. And here is the Finex number 12 cast iron skillet that we use for basting that, for making that steak so well. And this, as I mentioned already, I've had since 2014, and I'm probably going to have this for the rest of my life as well because this is my go-to for making a steak. And finally, even though this was really just a platter for slow cooking that steak here is the BSNR number 10 cast iron skillet. I've had this for about 2 years now. I found this at a flea market for 20 bucks and it's definitely worth it. So I'm really glad to own this. So yes, this is indeed some pieces from my collection. Oh, and one other thing, for those who may have seen my little short video on YouTube this morning, I did make sure to clean out the oven before I slow cooked that steak. And if you've seen my little video this morning, you'll know what I'm talking about. But thank you so much now to everybody because I've got a steak to enjoy here. So thank you so much. Hippie Longshanks and Mike DeMars and Cynthia Wesley, Mike M and Vocal guy. Vocal, I get it. Cynthia Wesley, Terry Sinchef, Val's Black Cats Rules, Mike M and Pip Gorin and Pawpaw Dan, Cast Iron Fanatic, Janet Bautista, hello, and thank you for being here, everybody. I'm glad we've got some regulars here, so thank you very much for showing up, and I really like all the new people who show up too. I can only thank you so much for everybody. For being here, everybody, and thank you, and especially everybody. Have fun because Christmas is coming. It's a week from Sunday, and be safe. As I mentioned, I've got my first big snowstorm to weather tomorrow. With any luck, everything should be okay. And likewise for all you folks who are having weather problems and other kinds of problems. Take care and be safe, everybody. And we'll do it all again next week. So, as I like to say, based on my favorite movie, 2001. See you next Wednesday.